What is going on, guys? Welcome back to the Cloudology channel, and welcome back to myself on the Cloudology channel. Um, no, I haven't been really keeping up with this channel. Unfortunately, I've been preoccupied with my other degenerate channel, but not really a degen channel. It's just a card channel, you know. And there's been a little bit of a reason why I've kind of slowly built this channel to basically I haven't really built this channel. So and nothing dramatic. I'm not here to be dramatic. There's no particular reason other than simply honing my craft, right? So I've been honing my craft, for the past couple of years as a cloud engineer slash DevOps engineer slash sysadmin slash SRE, whatever you want to call this particular space in IT. So, for those of you that don't know, this month is my third full year of working in IT as a whole, not working in cloud by itself. I mean, working in any type of capacity in the IT space, right? And the reason why I say that is because, I think a lot of people come on here on YouTube or in general just come into this space and they want to act as a subject matter expert in absolutely everything. I know I am not a subject matter expert in absolutely anything. At least not when it comes to IT. Maybe if we're talking about cars or vehicles, I would consider myself an expert in that aspect. But I digress. So my third year in IT, technically it's not until like the end of June, beginning of July area, but close enough to where I think I can make a stream today. And a couple experiences I've had over the last couple of months wanted me to make this video, and I wanted to do it while it was still fresh in my head because I had been planning on doing like a culmination of what I learned. I just didn't know when that would be, and I figured now would be a good time because now I feel a little bit more seasoned, if you will, in this space in general. So I've worked in infrastructure and cloud the entire time I've been in IT. So I've never professionally worked as a software developer. Like I've never had a W-2 job as a software developer, although that's kind of like how I got my foot in the door in this career space. But anyway, so today's stream topic I wanted to bring up is I hate to call it advice because it's not really advice, but more so just my observations over the last 3 years working as an infrastructure engineer in some capacity, right? It's called a DevOps engineer for simplification's sake, right? So a couple of things that I have, had the fortune to experience over the last couple months. Specifically, and what I wanted to speak to the most about today is as a young, early career DevOps engineer. So some of you might be in the same stage that I'm at right now. So, pretty early on, pretty much enough, as someone once told me, enough to get yourself in trouble, but not enough to get yourself out of it. I think I'm just like surpassing that stage, kind of pseudo still in it. But, and what I've noticed is when it comes to people, and this is me talking about myself, this might not relate to you if you're an early career DevOps engineer, but for me personally, I know that I was and still am. I'm kind of lacking on some fundamentals that people who are more tenured in infrastructure and cloud engineering space, or even just infrastructure, Linux admin space, networking space. that they have that knowledge because they worked in that capacity, one, for a very long time, and two, they learned it a completely different way than I did. So I'm not, uh, I understand for you older individuals, not necessarily in age, but in experience, that you guys have a very different understanding of infrastructure than some of the newer people like myself do. And what I mean by that is the cloud in general and the way we do deployments and networking and certain aspects of just the nature of cloud in general. How everything is moved to like software as a service or cloud native or um, basically has these tools that take a lot of the fundamentals out of the actual deployment process. Um, Let me give you an example of what I mean. So, if you were to take a DevOps engineer that has only worked in cloud, like myself, or that has only worked in, a I guess like an enterprise level, and it hasn't worked at like a startup where they built everything themselves from the ground up. Um, at least an enterprise level of experience on whatever job they might have. If you took a DevOps engineer with about my experience, I think, and you said, "Hey, can you deploy this app on a VM to production?" Not using any cloud native tools and not using any, you know, software as a service or automation or anything like that, right? Even on a cloud platform, like, spin up a VM on a insert cloud favorite cloud platform here. Could they do it from start to finish um, without the use of modern tools? You can use Google, you can use whatever you want. And the reason, excuse me, why I asked this question is because um, I was faced with a similar issue, and I knew roughly how to do it. But the devil's in the details, man. So that's where I realized I was like, wow, there's a lot that these cloud native solutions and these um, tools that you use kind of take away from truly understanding everything at its bare bones, right? What is up, Christian Soto? I see you in the chat. Let's go. Thank you. Yeah. So essentially, what I was talking about, which you can rewind, but how modern technology and infrastructure and IT in general kind of obfuscate the actual inner workings of how things connect together and work. So normally that's not a problem. Obviously, I've been doing it for at least the last 3 years, um, just fine. I've never had an issue where I was like underperforming at a job because of X reason, or I couldn't get something done. Eventually, I was able to figure it out. But I do realize there is a very different. There's like almost like a generational skill gap between deeply understanding how some of these systems work together, and how some of them, you know, don't work together. For an instance, so like I said, if you wanted to give someone at my skill level and you told them to deploy an application um, using whatever tools you want, like here's a React application or a PHP application, whatever floats your boat, and you're like, hey, take this and go deploy it. I guarantee they could deploy that in like 5 minutes. Like seriously, 5 minutes. It has, continuous integration. It's containerized. It's running on, AWS, ECS or, EKS or whatever, which is basically just like Kubernetes flavors for AWS. But if you told them to take that same application and say only use a VM on whatever cloud platform and whatever tools that are available on the platform itself, so literally take a bare VM with nothing on it, and even just clicking through the console, like not even writing code to do it, like not even writing Terraform or any of that stuff, just click through the console and deploy this application. Could they do it? Could they actually deploy it from development that is currently into production with an SSL cert and everything, and it's like a public facing website? So I did that very recently, and like I said, I did figure it out, but it was a struggle compared to what I was used to, because I'm used to these big production applications, or production environments, or enterprise environments that already have a deployment process defined. Do you know what I mean? So it's like, hey, containerize the app, and then feed it to this tool, and then it does this, does security checks, does all this, and then boom, it deploys it. You know what I mean? Or just take this Terraform code that we already have templated and put it, and fit it for this application. So there's already a baseline, is what I was saying. And a lot of companies are like that, and a lot of modern job environments are like that as well. I would imagine on the software development side too. So I find it very interesting that we've in 2023, at least, or at least since I've started in 2020, we've kind of gone away from understanding key elements within infrastructure in general, like network, like how SSL certificates actually work under the hood. Because I can give you an example. I can deploy a application on Cloud Run, for example, which I've shown on this channel before. It already comes out of the box with an SSL certificate. So literally you just need to throw it a container and a domain name, and everything's just going to work. Now, if you had to go into that VM that you deployed, even a container or just a bare app, you'd have to download like something like Certbot. You'd have to register your domain with Certbot and register a certificate, and then you have to request a certificate, and then you have to serve that certificate. So there's a lot of abstraction with some of these newer tools, which isn't a bad thing. Like it allows us to develop things way, way, way faster than was possible in the past, right? So it is a good thing. I'm not saying, look, I'm not a boomer. I'm not saying, oh, technology's bad. But what I am saying for you young DevOps engineers or software engineers is definitely take the time to learn the details and learn how some of these things work. Now, you don't have to understand everything, because, as the IT space understands, like, oh, just ignore complexity. Like, yes, ignore complexity, but on some level, you need to understand that complexity. Otherwise, it's going to hinder you in the future, right? So, for example, I challenge you, if you're in cloud or you're in the infrastructure space, deploy an application on a bare VM and do everything. Do the load balancing yourself. Do the certificates yourself. Do the network routing yourself. Set up. You can do it on a cloud platform, but do everything yourself. Like, don't use any serverless. Don't use any cloud native tools. And you'll see how difficult it is. And I know this is not just an isolated problem with myself, because I was literally looking at tutorials on how to do this. I was Googling. That's what we do. You know what I mean? So I was looking for something similar, like, hey, someone's had to have done this somewhere. And, it might be buried in the deep archives of Google or, the internet somewhere. But in recent times, I could not find any type of tutorial that walks you through step by step on how to do that, which, granted, most of the tutorials are not step by step, but even at a high level, it was very difficult to find. I kind of had to piece together information from different articles and then be like, okay, this fits my application, which again is the nature of our profession, right? But I just find it very interesting. And, I work my day job. I work with some younger, I say younger, I'm using that term as far as like experience levels, younger, DevOps engineers than even myself, that don't understand that complexity, but they're still able to do their job just fine. But I would like to issue that challenge to them if I was in that, position, just for fun, like not for like performance or anything like that, but just to kind of bring awareness to the fact that, like, man, there's a lot of stuff I don't know. and it's okay that you don't know it. But I just wanted to put that out there and be like, hey, definitely spend time on the stuff that you don't understand. I get it. Like, if you're, working a job, you can't necessarily spend the time to do that at work. Like, I understand, but go back maybe after work or another day or a time in the future and be like, okay, what the hell just happened there? Like, I know what I did and I know the end result, but how did I get from point A to point B? And you don't have to do that with everything. Sometimes the gaps will fill themselves in once you start digging into it a little bit more. But I highly recommend that you do that. Even as a software developer, even with so I was in a coding boot camp, which actually I think it was pretty good because it showed me how to make a website with React. But before it showed me how to make a website with React, it showed me how to make it with HTML, CSS, JavaScript, and jQuery, which nobody makes websites like that anymore. But I thought it was very interesting because it gave me a lot of context on how React worked as a whole, as a framework. And I wish the cloud engineering space had something similar to that, because I think in general, as DevOps or cloud engineers, we always want to jump into the new technology because it helps us do things faster and it makes things cooler and it makes everyone's lives easier when we use those tools, right? But take your time at some point in the future and just dive into these little like networking pieces, for example, like understanding how subnets and firewalls and uh, load balancers, NAT gateways, and internet gateways, understand how they work, because it's kind of like it's it's obfuscated with the cloud environment we work in now, but it's still essential information. You know what I mean? And this is only related to cloud. There's a whole nother subset of knowledge that we, as younger DevOps engineers, don't have, and that's like working in on-prem environments. Like I have no clue. Like I've never even been to a data center, and I work in cloud. I work in infrastructure, which is insane. If you would have told someone that even 5 or 6 years ago, I think it would have been like, wait, what? You've never been to a data center? You know what I mean? And that's a whole different ball game, because then you're working with like physical hardware, and you're working with like actually going on site to a place and being like, hey, we need like X amount of you know switches or whatever the case may be. Like I don't even know, I can't even speak to it. But I was talking with an older colleague at one of uh, previously in a previous job, and I brought that up to him. I'm like, you're probably working with most people that don't have never been to a data center or have never worked on an on-prem environment. And he was like, damn, that's wild. Because he was definitely a more seasoned individual, even in age. And I laugh at that if he is watching this, but he's probably not. But so I find it very interesting that there is like a generational gap for those type of individuals. And I think we need to be cognizant of that as younger DevOps engineers. And I also think you old guys need to pass on some of this knowledge. I don't think all of it is absolutely critical, but I do think there needs to be a knowledge transfer, because I don't necessarily know what the future holds for cloud in general. I'm not saying it's on dire straits or anything like that. Like pretty much everything runs in the cloud, but it might not in the future. So that's something that I definitely think needs to be passed on, because we're losing a lot of that foundational knowledge. And again, I'm speaking from personal experience, so this might not apply to you. And if it doesn't, awesome. Like I'm glad you know that stuff. I myself, I've been spending a lot of time, understanding the fundamentals, working with different things that I'm not used to doing, not working in production environments, working in basically day zero environments or like startup environments. So I think that's kind of highlighted that I have that skill gap. So I just wanted to bring it up, as far as like the stream goes. So another thing I want to speak to you about DevOps engineers early in their career is, so there's no doubt that our economy is not doing the hottest right now. The IT industry got hit the hardest, for sure. Like it always does. It's always one of the first things to go. You know what I mean? And I don't think we've seen the worst of it yet. So both with working on like personal projects, I've noticed a difference in the amount of people that you know are hitting me up for different types of work. And I've also noticed, my day job, things changing, in general. And the reason why I bring this up is because it is not enough to just be really good at your job um, anymore. Because now the current job market, I don't know, some of you have jobs, some of you might not have jobs. Those of you that don't, it's rough out there. I understand that. I live with someone that is currently looking for a job in IT, and it is very difficult. And I understand that. But it is not enough to just be good at your job or be highly technical or, just be real, like, mode one on everything infrastructure, everything code, or everything, it's just, it's not enough anymore. And, I knew this. And I think that's how I got a lot of the, positions that I have both on personal projects and, as far as like, normal jobs go. I I believe I'm in the firm belief that who you are as a person and just how you interact with people in general, whether it be at your workplace, whether it be with your clients, whether it be with your fellow coworkers, whether it be your boss, whatever, that how you treat them and how you act towards them matters a whole lot now. It always has, in my opinion, but now more than ever because um, it's not just about technical skills anymore. There's a lot of talent on the market right now. They're not going to have trouble finding jobs. If you don't necessarily have that talent, like, look, newsflash, I am not the best DevOps engineer to walk the earth. In case anyone was confused, I am not, I don't consider myself very highly skilled. People who have worked with me might disagree, but me personally, I feel like I can always be better, right? But what I think overcomes a lot of that, like missing foundational knowledge, for example, or just not knowing, not having the experience, is the way I interact with people and the relationships I have with people, and I treat them like normal people because they are. Um, and I think that is, played out very well, especially in recent events that I can't and I won't really speak to. Um, it has helped me out quite a lot, and I think that's going to be very essential going forward. Is your relationships with, um, coworkers or people you work with, your bosses, whatever the case may be, or clients. If you want to go on that side, if you're in consulting, or if you're in, or if you own your own business or want to start your own business, how you make your clientele feel about the situation, whether it be, whether you're building out an environment for them or you're just like bullshitting with them. I think that makes a huge difference now because we've lost a lot of that, like, not lost, it's kind of like personal touch has been put on the back burner for so long because it was just all about, getting things, done right away, or getting things done quickly or getting things done extremely well. And if they didn't do work well, or if they did work well and they were kind of like assholes about it, whatever, they did good work. Now I think that's shifting because people are being a little bit more tighter with their wallets, people in general, but also these bigger companies as well. They got to be really careful about their financial decisions, right? So I do think that being being, I wouldn't say agreeable, but I mean, for lack of a better term, just being a decent person. You know what I mean? Like, understand that it's a job and people have lives outside of jobs, and also understanding that, not everyone is going to be at your skill level, just like you weren't at someone else's skill level. So, having patience with, maybe employees or coworkers or clients that may not be at your skill level technically, and being like, hey, like, what can I do to help you understand this more so we can like move forward, versus like, kind of like belittling them or kind of being passive aggressive about them. Because, I believe it or not, dude, I see it a lot. I see it a lot in this space, and it's like, dog, just like chill out. You know what I mean? Like, come on. If you work in IT, you're probably working like fucking 20 hours a week. Just chill out, dude. Chill out, bro. It's gonna be fine. It's gonna be fine. But yeah, so I wanted to bring those things up because, some things have happened over the last couple months, like I said, that kind of brought awareness to this. and I just wanted to say something about it. Granted, there's probably going to be like two people that ever see this video, but if for whatever reason this video makes it past those two people, I hope this helps in some way, because those are the things that I've really been focusing on. Obviously, I always focus on just being a decent individual, which apparently a lot of people in this space are unaware of how to do. But if that's a area you legitimately struggle in, like I realize there's a lot of people in general that do struggle socially like that, and it sucks, but it's a skill you can work on just like anything else. You know what I mean? Like you don't have to pigeonhole yourself into like, oh, I'm just this way because I was born this way, or I have some mental disease or mental illness or whatever the case may be. Sometimes if you're like, honestly, if you're if you're watching this and you're very very like non-functioning autistic, congratulations, that you could even get this far. But for all of us more or less functioning autistic people, or whatever the case may be, I do believe social skills can be learned at the very least, to help you do better at your job. And dude, that can be the difference between getting laid off and not getting laid off. I've seen that for sure. I've seen people who aren't exactly like the best performers not get laid off over somebody that was a really good performer but just couldn't work with people, or just overall was very passive aggressive, or in general just like kind of a shit person. Like very technically skilled people getting let go because of just them not being able to socially interact with people. And as much as you might hate it, and whatever, IT is supposed to be technical, whatever, you're still working with humans, dude. Like you're still working with people. So I challenge those of you who may not have the social side down to go out and challenge yourself and try to interact with more people in your daily life, even at your workplace, and just kind of go with the flow and learn. I understand for some people it's easier said than done, but all things worth having are worth fighting for. I don't know, some majestic quote. Soft skills are the hard skills. Indeed, they are. Christian Soto, they absolutely are. Like I don't know, like I've always been pretty good, like talking to people, but that's a skill I developed over time. Like, dude, when I was a weird high school kid, bro, I couldn't talk to anybody. Like, honestly, I kind of attribute it to like when I worked at Best Buy. I attribute it to like my customer service version of myself. You know what I mean? But eventually, that customer service version of yourself, if you work in retail, you understand what I mean. Eventually, it can bleed over into like your social life in general. You know what I mean? So use your customer service voice with your coworkers and your employers, I guess. Like, I understand if you don't want to do like the whole company culture stuff, or like virtual happy hour or whatever. I understand that because I'm not a big proprietor. I'm not a big subscriber to that either. But I will show up every once in a while just to like shoot the shit. Like maybe I don't want to play whatever game they're playing, but whatever the case may be, like it's par for the course. But things like that I think have kind of kept me around in the space. I've confirmed that, very recently, which I think was always cool because I'm like, wow, I thought I was like really shitty, but actually, I'm not. You know what I mean? Or at least in that context, because I had never done whatever it was before, right? But with that being said, guys, go out, go challenge yourself to new things, whether it be technical. If you're lacking on the technical side, challenge yourself technically. If you're lacking on the social side and the soft skills side, challenge yourself to do it. Like join, I don't know, like a public speaking group or something like that, or like a Toastmasters or whatever the case may be. And maybe it'll help out with it, or just hang out with people. Like if you just shut yourself in your house all day, like be like, hey dude, like let's go fucking hang out or whatever. Or I don't know, go join a Facebook group or something, but actually meet in person, not just over the internet. But anyway, I digress. I hope that this lands with somebody, and I hope that this changes your life for the better in some way or another. I don't think I'm saying anything like revolutionary, but hopefully it just articulates it in a different way that helps people, that helps someone understand, right? With that being said, I'm going to say goodbye for the night, and I want to do a fun stream for my next stream. I'm gonna take a page from the book of Tech Chief. I'm actually going to do a Learn to Code Live, except I'm going to call it like Learn to Cloud Live or Learn to DevOps Live or something like that. And what I'm going to do, because this is actually something fun that I want to do, is we're going to provision a Minecraft server, basically a public or private Minecraft server. And we're going to do it all through code. So we're going to do it through Terraform, or I'm thinking like maybe GKE, depending on if I can wrap my brain around it. But I'm going to do no frills. So I'm granted, so Google has a tutorial on this, full disclosure, all right? But they do it a little bit differently. We're going to loosely follow that tutorial pretty much step by step, and you're pretty much just going to watch me struggle. So I'm going to limit it to maybe like 30 minutes, because I don't want to, I could seriously sit here for like 5 hours and do this, but I don't think anyone would watch that. So I'll limit it to like 30 minutes, 45 minutes, and then we'll do a hard cutoff. And whatever I don't understand, I'll go research and I'll come back and start the next video. So I think that would be a cool thing to do. And I think this would be useful for the Minecraft community in general, I guess, if they wanted to find this video and use that. I'm an average Minecraft enjoyer. So we're going to do that. So I'm going to plan that. But for tonight, thank you guys for watching. Please share this video with someone that that needs it. And yeah, see you next time.